Lincoln was assassinated 5 days later. But racism refused to die. After the Civil War ended, America was left with 4 million slaves and 11 rebellious states. There was a 10-year period after the Civil War where black people voted, black people were elected, and black people participated in the government. But Reconstruction failed in a decade because of the KKK. Slavery ruled the economy and law in our land for 250 years. The Confederacy lasted from 1861 to 1865. That nation existed for 4 years. They pulled their flag off a Capitol House just a couple of months ago. Abraham Lincoln got shot 3 days after wanting to give the vote to black people. All those former Confederate soldiers came home to work as sheriffs and judges and lawyers, police and mayors. They began to use their power to shape and make an insidious series of laws and policies that made it difficult for African Americans to win court cases, ensured they were subject to black codes and work contracts and supervision of white people and slave owners. They did this for the economic benefit of exploiting them for their labor and controlling their behavior. These evil men came back from the Civil War to their homes. They began to use their power to enact black codes across the South as a legal way to ensure black citizens were available as a cheap labor force, absolutely including cheap child labor. Many states required blacks to sign yearly labor contracts, and blacks who refused were arrested and fined. They were forced into unpaid labor camps. They took their voting rights away. They controlled where they could live. They controlled how they could travel. 4 million people, free slaves, with no land, no money, no education. They made it illegal for them to learn to read. They made it illegal for you to teach them what A sounded like. All they gave them were scars and strength. It was beaten into their flesh for 250 years before emancipation. The Christmas Eve after the Civil War ended, in Pulaski, Tennessee, the Ku Klux Klan was formed. Merry Christmas, America! The KKK used cowardice, math, and violence to spread their hateful vengeance and their intimidation and their laws to re-infest American government with white supremacy. Black codes evolved into Jim Crow. You've heard of Jim Crow, but I doubt you know what it means. Jim Crow got in your textbooks long ago, and he never died. When you hear Jim Crow, you should think of Tom Rice. Let's back up decades to 1828. A man named Thomas Rice, a white actor, he witnessed a black man singing a song called Jump Jim Crow. He stole this man's song. He used it as inspiration for a minstrel routine based on a character he called Jim Crow. It was a clumsy and mentally deficient character. He put on blackface. He told jokes and sang songs in an exaggerated slave persona. You've used this persona. If you've ever used the word massa, that came out of Jim Crow's mouth. This show became an instant hit, and Thomas Rice toured the U.S. Thomas Rice toured Great Britain. This Jim Crow spirit and stereotype was seized upon by the KKK and racists throughout the South, and it soon evolved into a confusing term used to describe the system of anti-black laws that were laid down across America and lasted 100 years into the 1970s. States, counties, cities across America enacted laws, enacted statutes that legalized racial segregation, the right to hold a job, the right to go to school, infested with the insidious stink of Jim Crow. People who stood up to Jim Crow, they were arrested, they were fined, imprisoned, beaten, killed by law enforcement. Many thousands of towns and countries across the United States became sundown towns. When to be caught after dark while black meant your ass was hanging from a tree before dawn. Public parks were forbidden for African Americans to enter. Theaters, restaurants, bus and train stations, water fountains, public restrooms, building entrances, elevators, cemeteries, public pools, phone booths, hospitals, asylums, jails, residential homes for the elderly and handicapped, textbooks, prostitutes, Bibles, marrying between races or even cohabitating were forbidden by law in most southern states.